Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Picket Studios. This is my newest stamp set. This is called You're on the Way Up. The stamps and dies there. And then in addition, I'm going to be using this. It's one of the Freckle Friends. It's Climbing Calliope. And then the Peekaboo die. The Peekaboo die is kind of gonna be the star of the show, even though we're using two other stamp and die sets. Before we get too far into it, I do just want to mention, if you're interested in picking up either one of those, for a limited time, the really nice thing that Picket Fence does is it offers a bundle. They offer a bundle for a short, limited amount of time when a set is first released that will give you 10% off if you buy the stamp and die. And that's available for both of these sets. So with that said, let's get into the actual card making. I am stamping out all of my elements. So in my set, the You're on the Way Up, there are three main images, and that's what you see right here. The largest one with the florals, like little peonies. The other ones with you could color them as petunias. I'm going to color them like morning glories. And then the smaller one. Obviously, the different size lets us play with scale a little bit in scene cards, which I love. And then, or you can combine this with other ones, which is what I'm going to do with the Climbing Calliope Freckle Friend. So here, like I said, I decided I was going to color them like Morning Glories. So blue and, no, is that what I want? Yeah, it's Morning Glories, right? What am I thinking of? Oh, I was thinking of Forget-Me-Nots, but that's not right. They are Morning Glories. What am I even saying? Let's move on. Let's talk about coloring, which is stuff I know about. So basically, I went in with my darkest color, and then I laid down my shadows. Now you could do these like as if you were coloring them like petunias. You could do a bunch of different colors. That would be really great. I chose to keep it kind of simple with the color scheme because I do have two different cards going on. One is interactive, one is not. And I'm trying to fit it all into one video. So taking my darkest color, going in and looking for those lines that the illustrator gives you to indicate where, you want to have some darkness, and just following those. In this case, I am the illustrator, so it's easy for me to pick out where I want to pick out the darkness, but hopefully in giving you guys these lines that are drawn in, the details, it helps you also to be able to see where you could go in with some shadows and some highlights. So once I get out to my lightest color, I am going to, make sure that I'm also getting any of the upturn edges where you would see, like the edge of the flower petal. Those are going to be lighter, catch some more light. And then I tried to keep it pretty similar with the color schemes. I did use a lighter yellow to get the center of these, and then moved on to the greens. So the greens for the leaves are going to be the same for the Morning Glories as well as the peonies, because I'm also going to use a darker green for the actual balloon color of my peony. Now, I chose for these two because I want my flowers to kind of be the star when you're looking at these. I chose to do the base of the hot air balloon the same color, but you don't have to. These would look really beautiful with like a rainbow color hot air balloon and white flowers. That would be super pretty. Or, doing complementary colors. Like here, all these flowers are blue. You could do an orange balloon, and that would really help those flowers pop forward because orange is their complementary color. So just some things to think about there. For the peonies, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to go in and lay down my shadows with my darkest color. I'm looking for those lines. Peonies are a more layered flower, so there is more going on here, but if you just take your time and look to see, where they're meeting, where, one is tucked underneath the other, you can see, where to put those darkest colors. We don't want to make everything dark. Because then we're going to run into the issue of there's no contrast, and with no contrast, you have no dimension. So we want to make sure that even though we're getting those little pops of dark, we're also leaving enough room for those little pops of light as well. And so for all of these, you could leave them this like kind of brighter orange, but I decided I wanted it to be more of like a pinkish peachy kind of orange. So I'm going to do a little bit of color glazing over these. But you don't have to do that. You can do whatever's making you happy. This whole set, like in addition to these, I did not use, well, that's not true. I shouldn't say I didn't use any of the other elements. I did stamp out the clouds. And there's clouds in both of these sets, and the Freckle Friend set as well. And I did stamp those also. But then we also have like some stars. There's a couple of different sentiments that definitely lean more toward like graduation, promotion, moving on, moving up, those kinds of types of sentiments is what is in my set. In the other set, just kind of like some uplifting ones, and then just some general as well, like a hey you and a happy birthday. And they, in addition to the clouds, that other one has like a little banner, which is super cute. So here I'm out to my lightest color, and I'm just kind of filling everything in. I don't dislike the orange. I think the orange is very pretty, but I didn't think that I would really love it with the darker green. So that is why I decided to make it a bit more on the kind of like peachy pink side. For the centers of the peonies, I'm using a combination of yellows. I will repeat this same kind of combination for the smaller hot air balloon and the hot air balloon. For the wait, I already forgot. I had to look it up before I even started. Climbing Calliope? Calliope? Yeah, that sounds right. Which actually I learned when I was Googling how to pronounce it, is in the Greek mythology. She's one of the 9 muses, and she is in charge of eloquent and epic poetry. Now, what is the difference between poetry and epic poetry? I don't know, but I can tell you that every single reference to it said epic poetry, not just regular poetry, as well as I think song and dance. So interesting things that you learn when you get on the Google. So for the little baskets, I colored these all with the same browns. Obviously, you're going to have a little bit more detail in the one with the larger basket versus the smaller basket. So I did take the time to do like just a little bit of very generic cross hatching in the large and kind of medium ones, just because you would be able to see just a smidge of that pattern. Now, for the smaller, we'll call it the medium. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it the medium size one. I did go in, I decided to color it white. I'm adding the shadows with some grays. And in order to do that, I do still want to leave some areas white, but I want to just put in those shadow colors. So what you see me doing is kind of working my way around the florals where they would be like casting a shadow onto the hot air balloon, and then also kind of flicking up from where it's gathered. I am intentionally trying to leave some white area because I want it to come off as white. So just, go through, take your time. If you're worried about being too heavy handed, then don't start with your darkest color, start with your lightest color and kind of work out from there. For as light as we went on the medium one, we're going to go dark on the large one. So I wanted something that was going to stand out from the sky. I knew my sky was going to be blue. And so I thought this dark green would be really pretty. But the darkest green that I have in like a true green is a G29. And really, it's not that dark. So in order to make sure that I had dark enough shadows, I'm going to use this C9 as a base. And then I'm going to go over that C9 with that G29, and it will give it the appearance of a darker green. So that's just some way that you can kind of use your neutrals to get more out of what you have. I know neutrals are boring, but I'm a big fan of getting them, purchasing them, because you can do so much with them to help kind of stretch your other supplies. So that's just, I don't own the toners or the neutral grays. I just own the cool and the warm. Not that I'm saying the other ones are bad. I'm just saying I've never felt the need to invest in them. So then once we're out to the lightest color, again, we're going to fill that in. And then here's where I'm going to go in and do that color glazing. They're very clearly orange, like a bright kind of more on the yellowish orange side. So I'm going to go in with an RV04, which is going to help kind of bring them over to the pink side. And then in order to blend that, because as you can see, adding this darker pink does make it look darker. In order to blend it out, I'm going to go in with an RV02. I did not go over the lightest parts. So like the places where the peony is kind of curled up over itself, I left those orange. Like I left those the lightest color, which is a Y38. And I was really happy with the way that one came out. For this one, I'm just going to do, just to give it some roundness and some shape, I'm just going to add a little bit of shading kind of from the top and the bottom. There aren't any florals or anything like that. It's smaller. It's meant to be like that balloon that's off in the distance. That's why, like I said, we're playing with a little bit of scale. So I wanted to repeat the same colors that we've already seen used in our hot air balloons so that my cards go together but are still different. So you'll see like I did the blue, then I did both greens, a yellow, an orange, and then the orange that I kind of glazed over with the pink. So you see all the colors represented in that one. For this one, I'm not even going to say it again because I have a feeling that Calliope, that's what it is, right? Lord have mercy. She obviously has a ton more of detail. In her person, and she's got these two little like puppy dogs in her hot air balloon, which are adorable, but I'm not going to change my color scheme. I'm going to just repeat those same browns. This one, again, also has that little bit of detail. I don't have to fake it this time. It's drawn into the stamp. So I'm just going to go ahead and follow those lines to make sure that this does have a little bit of texture put back into it. And for some reason, I missed it when I was doing this the first time around. There is a portion of the inside of the basket you can see, and I didn't see it. Don't worry, I'll get it later. I chose to use the same colors for her hair. And so typically with hair, I like to use the flicking technique. That's where you put down the most pressure when you put your marker down first, and then you lift as you kind of push off. And that helps to make really nice kind of strands of hair. I put in my darkest color, which usually you'll see like behind the neck, you'll see at the crown, and like where their part is, you'll see, that kind of darker color there. The pieces that kind of frame the face are usually the lightest, so I try to make sure that I reserve some highlight around the face or any of the pieces that I can tell are going to be on top. I try to reserve a little highlight there. And again, I didn't want to reintroduce another brown family. I just made it work with what I had. Here's the part where I missed the inside, and I just used my my darkest color and my mid-tone to just go ahead and fill that in. For these little dogs, one is clearly a poodle, labradoodle, cockapoo type style of dog. And so that one, I decided that I was going to color black. And then the other one looks suspiciously like a beagle type dog, some sort of hound. And so that one, I was able to color in with those neutral gray, like the cool grays, those neutral colors we talked about, and the same browns. For the poodle, because their hair is curly, I did use stippling to kind of, tap those little dots in to help mimic the texture that you would see in their hair. And the only other tip on that is I tried to, be a little lighter handed with the darker colors around the face so that you could still see the eyes. And then for this one, I did the same thing. I used a lighter brown around the eyes, darker brown for the ears. And then the face and like the little stripe up the center, I did with the cool grays, just I think a 1 and a 3. But yeah, I thought the reason that I wanted to do this is, you guys know, we're always trying to stretch our supplies. We're always trying to, get more out of different things. And so like cover plates like this one, like this peekaboo die, I really, really like, because you can use it a couple of different ways. You can use it as a background, and several of my design team, like my friends on the design team, they did use it, and they used it with the foiling sheets or the glossy cardstock, which already has like really beautiful backgrounds printed on them. And those are fantastic. They look so good with it. And having that cover plate just like takes it to the next level. You could do it simple, which is how I did mine. I did mine really simple, just some ink blending. And then you could have just put, the peekaboo clouds right on top of the other background. Or because it's all kind of enclosed, it's a great shaker card. And if you are familiar at all with Picket Fence, you know that they do tend to lean towards, shaker cards or interactive cards, which I think is super fun. Here, this middle one, again, because I want them to match, I did color the whole thing orange and then go back in with my pinks to get that peachy orange color that my flowers are. And then I'm going to color her little dress blue. The little accents are that orange, like peachy pink kind of orange. But anyway, the Picket Fence does lend itself to like more interactive cards. Their foam tape is a thicker width for, creating shaker cards. Here, I just colored out of the lines. Like, nobody's perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But thank the Lord we know how to fix it, which is with the colorless blender. So what you saw me just do there was just push the color out so that I could come back in with my gray markers and color them as if they were silver. And later on, I'll bring in my white gel pen to add in some highlights. Once I have those done, you can color your clouds however you would like. I mean, it's your card. I like to add in a little bit of pink, a little bit of blue-green, maybe some violet into my clouds. And you can see I'm not doing I'm not doing the most. I'm just adding little pops of blue and little pops of pink. And then I'm going to go back in with my C1 and just kind of go right over everything. And this will help give them some dimension and some shape. They'll come across as puffier because of that shading, but they'll also come across as more interesting. So now that the coloring is done, I'm going to go ahead and match up their coordinating dies as well as that little peekaboo cloud. And I'm going to cut 2 of those. So here, I just wanted to show you, this is one way, that you could use it, just doing some inking and putting it down. Alternatively, you can cut 2 of them. And you can layer them together. So just flip it around so that there's like 2 layers of clouds. One maybe you could raise up. That would be a different way to use it and kind of get more out of it. But I am going to actually cut mine. So here I'm just going to line it up so that I can cut it right in half. And this one does have like a stitch detail on the border. But I am not worried about that. I'm going to use one piece together and then I'm going to cut one piece apart. Here you can see me cutting them apart. And what I'm doing is I'm just picking one side or the other and I'm rounding it out. So I'm just rounding that kind of straight cut edge. You could also maybe do this with a corner rounder if you weren't comfortable doing it with your scissors. I'm just using smaller detail scissors, but I am holding my scissors straight and then I'm kind of rotating my paper in my left hand, my non-dominant hand, to get that round edge so that I can use them to create multiple layers of clouds. And so here, I do not ink blend this fast, but I'm trying to do 2 cards and one of them is interactive. So Mama's doing her best to just get it done. So here, the colors that I chose for my sky colors were Salvage Patina, Salty Ocean, and Mermaid Lagoon. And then I'm also going to bring in just a little bit of Kitsch Flamingo, because remember when we colored our stamped clouds, we brought in a little bit of pink and a little bit of blue-green, and I just wanted to be able to mimic that in the clouds. So one of them is just going to be all blue. This is the one that you see me doing here. This will eventually be our shaker card. And I'm going in with the Salvage Patina. The background I've gone all over. And then on the piece that will be popped up, that will be the top of our shaker card, I am just going around the edges. For this one, I am kind of doing an all over color with the lightest one. And then I'm going to start getting a little bit more particular about where I'm going to add my shading. Same thing for these clouds. I'm not completely covering them. I'm leaving a lot of white area, but I am bringing up that Salvage Patina kind of up the side so that there is a little bit of shadow there. Again, because this is so repetitive, that is why I have sped it up. Of course, you can slow it down in YouTube. You would just click on the gear in settings there. There's a playback, and then you would select at what speed. Also, if I'm taking too long for you and you're like, Kelly, I don't want to hear you talk this much, you could also speed it up, and then I would sound like, Alvin and the Chipmunks, which is also fine. So anyway, I just really like dies like this because you can get kind of more out of them. For this one, I did choose to do just like a couple random areas of sky. So that way it kind of gave the illusion of other clouds, but this is not this one, the one we just did. That's the card that I'm going to use my stamped clouds on. So I'm not quite as worried about making sure that I have that soft blend in the background. I do think it adds to it, but that's just my personal opinion. So yeah, these, I mean, we did these, I feel like we did these a while ago, so I'm super happy to have them out and to be able to use them. Here, this is the part where I'm bringing in kind of that pinkish color into the background. And you can see, just really, really light-handed. I'm tapping off, kind of circling off the excess on my glass mat before I'm bringing it to the paper. I just want it to be really soft, just like kind of hints of pink. Obviously, blending the pink over the salvage patina is going to give me, some violet in some areas, which I like. I'm a big fan of. I think it makes the clouds more interesting to look at. Here, the section that pops out in the middle, because I'm cheap, I'm not going to waste it, and that's what I'm going to stamp my sentiments on. I chose to use sentiments both from my set, because I just felt like they fit the cards better. So one says congratulations and one says let your dreams take flight. Like I said, there are other ones, so proud of you, or the one that matches the name, which says, you're on the way up. They're all just like encouraging, congrats, promotion, graduation type of things. So here, what I'm doing is I've die cut out my sentiments, which the coordinating dies. And for this one, I'm kind of building up where the front of the card is going to look like. So that way I can just flip them over as one piece and put my acetate there, and then I'll know where I can kind of hide my foam adhesive. So here I'm just going to turn it on its side and then hold it up. I'm just like kind of going to peel it up and just like peekaboo it so that I can get my glue press in there. I do want to mention also, I know I mentioned the bundles earlier, but Picket Fence is going to be having, I believe, is it starting today? I think it's starting tomorrow. They are going to be having Black Friday sales. They do have a Black Friday mystery box that's only like $40, where you get, tons of goodies. So just be on the lookout for that. Those sales will be coming. Like I said, I think either tomorrow or Saturday, but that mystery box is already out. I did use dry adhesive to adhere my acetate to the back of my card front. And then I just used what was left over on my brush to kind of blend in my sentiment so it wasn't stark white. This is the extra wide foam tape I was telling you about. Typically, if you use other brands of foam tape, you do have to double up to make a shaker card. With their adhesive, you do not have to, because it is made to be thicker for interactive cards. So here I am using I think this is Carnival Day. So it has some really pretty pinks and golds. And then this one is, why can't I remember the name of it? It's sitting right here. Stand by. Taking Off. And that one has some really pretty blues and things like that. So I did not feel the need to go through and like cordon off everything, but you do need to make sure, at least on the edges, that your shaker bits are touching. I obviously put that kind of big blocker right behind my floating girl, so that way it would keep most of the shaker bits to the right hand side where we do have the acetate showing through. I also accented my sentiment with this is the one that I really, really like. I keep using it. What is it? Speed of sound, speed of light. I think that's what it is. But it's got some color changing ones in there, as well as some really pretty blue ones. I used the blue. Nobody's surprised here. Blue is my boyfriend. So for this one, this is how we're going to switch up using the cover plate with the pieces that we've cut apart. I've laid everything out. I'm going to adhere my clouds down flat. I'm just going to glue them right to our ink-based front. And then, now remember, I just said that Picket Fence has the thicker foam tape. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, and these clouds as well, I also adhered down flat. the ones here, I'm going to adhere just a little bit higher up, so that way you'll be able to see both levels of them. You certainly could pop up the second layer if you wanted to. I did not feel the need to, because I knew I was going to pop up my hot air balloons. So here I'm just putting this down as kind of a placeholder. And then this one, I'm going to scooch it, so I'm like using the middle, and then I'll just have that detail, that stitching detail, just kind of right along the bottom of it. But I'm going to adhere it so it's kind of more in the middle-ish. It is kind of pretty far over to the left-hand side, but that way there's just multiple layers. It makes the scene a little bit more interesting. We have a couple of different kinds of clouds, and then I will trim off that excess. Because they have that kind of double wide foam tape, I can use some lower profile foam tape for the medium-sized one in the back, and create lots of layers that make the card more interesting. So that one was popped up with low profile. This one is popped up with the same one that we used to create the shaker card. So it's like doubled down. So that one sits in front of everything else. And then this is also the same foam tape that I'll use behind the congratulations, except for the part where it overlaps our hot air balloon, that I will just put liquid adhesive there so it sits there kind of nicely. I didn't need to add any shading to this particular sentiment because all of the parts that it was sitting in front of were already mostly white. So once I put that down, then I, did the same thing with the accenting with the gemstones. I added some clear glitter to my flowers and to my hot air balloons. I also added some white highlights, just these little extra details you can add. And then that was it. That's both cards. So I know there was a lot going on here. Please, of course, if you have any questions, you can ask them below. I hope that this inspires you to try to get more out of the things that you have. Don't forget about watching out for those Black Friday sales. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.